The structure of language itself is considered to be an expression of consciousness to the degree that the formation of the language is what causes the creation of the original matrix, this unique to tantric understanding, knowledge of the matrikas. Matrika literally means a little mother. So matrikas are these frequencies, these vibrations that are at the very source of the formation of the language, and as a result, formation of all the ideas and ideations, which conceals reality in a sense that it dresses reality in concepts and precepts before we even know it, because there is this necessity to learn the language in order to communicate. And learning the language is on par here with being plugged into that matrix of what language he represents. So therefore there is this term, this understanding in tantric philosophy, in tantric tradition, as going beneath the language, the necessity of going beneath the language. And language is used to go beneath the language. So this necessity of going beneath the language, and what affords that possibility is the fact that language is in itself also an expression of mantra. In other words, this is what now gives the confirmation, if you will, of the longevity and validity of Sanskrit language here in particular, because Sanskrit language is the language of the mantra. It's the language which utilizes seed syllables. And these seed syllables are still at the root of most, if not all, of its terms. It is these seed syllables that form so-called bija mantras, the mantras which are considered to be at the very origin of everything. These mantras literally as seeds. Every seed, no matter how small, contains the entire oak tree in its potentiality. That bija mantra here is what gives the capacity for going beneath the language with the use of the language. So the mantric science here very much based on this understanding. So language here is utilized as something to deconstruct the language. It's a unique concept born in Indian subcontinent. I don't know another culture, I have to add this, that operates with this system, with the system of thought known as the Matrika Shakti. The Sanskrit alphabet itself is seen made of vowels and consonants, where vowels, open sounds, stand for the quality of awareness, Shiva. And the consonants, where the sound collapses, the open sound of the vowel collapses, stands for the quality of Shakti, or reflective awareness. This is exemplified by that Vedic verse, Richo Akshare Parome Vyoman. This is the first line of that Vedic verse. Richo Akshare. A, that open vowel of the first letter of the Sanskrit alphabet, collapses here as Ksa, Ksha. And this is a reminder, as the verse goes, that all the knowledge of the Vedas, as the verse goes, is contained between the sounds, where all the laws of nature are in perfectly compacted state. Ones whose awareness is opened to these gaps, what need for them all that what is contained in the Vedas? And ones whose awareness is not opened to these gaps, what can knowledge of the Vedas do? It's a beautiful and great reminder of the value that here this understanding operates, which brings everything back to that where everything arises in the first place, sustained, carried, upnourished, and being reabsorbed. And the language here is that expression of this unity of Shiva Shakti as unity of pure subjectivity with an object of experience through knowledge. This is the triad of the creation of the Shiva, Shakti, and Nara, Shiva, Shakti, and individual existence, and also of the world. With pure subjectivity represented by the quality of your awareness as Shiva, the process of experiencing knowledge represented by the quality of Shakti, and known, that what we consider ourselves, including the body, as that what is represented here by Nara, individual and also the whole entire world, because the world is an object of the experience of our pure subjectivity. So this is how the language ties it all together. And one whose awareness is open to these gaps, one whose awareness is opened to that field of pure potentialities where all sounds arise, including that of vowels and consonants, which makes the matrix of creation, has the capacity to go beneath the language, beneath concepts and precepts, and free themselves from the restraint and constraint that language imposes on us, whether we like it or not. This is also neatly relates to the capacity of the poet and the sage to, in the former, to intuit, to tap into, to be granted with that, and with the later, to be able to cognize, to bring to the actualization. So this is a very, very, in my understanding, fitting reminder which connects this, what we have spoken so far through this variety of reflections, with the way the language itself works, but the way of the language. You see, here's the language as that power of consciousness which conceals itself from itself, as it were. It hides itself in the world through the precepts and concepts, only to reveal itself, only to bring itself back into the, and through the process of cognition. So to summarize, the whole purpose is to subvert, to replace that solidified by culture notion of the body as a place of suffering, for that of the body as the place of felicity, as the place of ananda, as the place of beatitude, is the red thread that runs across the entire scope of Vedic and Tantric teaching, with visualizations as that potent methodology to be able to re-emerge and through the process of submergence into the body of the goddess. These are deeply esoteric processes that Tantra speaks in most unapologetic, direct, often metaphorical manner, but this is what the process of awakening truly represents. Awakening of the life force, all that fullness of that process, what it exemplifies, when that consciousness spills over as a molten gold, no longer contained in an ornament, through all the rich network of all the pathways of energy. It runs through the entire subtle domain, taking over, maybe bit by bit or in one sweeping movement, the entire tree of life, the Kabbalistic Merkaba, flooding the being with light again, so as to find its sublimation at the level of complete merging of power and its source, speaking in strictly tantric terms. This is the process of the Sri Kundalini's ascent, which is inseparable from the accompanying movement of the descent of grace. These two movements, these two grand waves of which we began our conversation some days ago, find its reconciliation in that grand sweeping movement of the descent of grace and the ascent of consciousness, where these two waves find its equipoise and sublimation. Where the place of these visualizations have direct aim at guiding us into that very intricate process. So some of these meditations will give you direct, immediate, tactile taste of that, as the guidance offered will lead you through the lesser defined terrains of your own deeply intimate interiority, so as to connect you at the very center of that maze with the core of your being, so that you can partake in that in as direct and visceral way as it is possible.